Sometimes it's not that we're doing something, it's just that we're allowing something that we shouldn't, that goes against the energy we want to sustain for ourselves. So even that is a lack of loyalty to self, so that you can be loyal outside of you, than being able to say, you know what, sometimes the best way to love somebody is to let them go, so that they can, that's what's best for them. And sometimes we hold on to people thinking that we're being loyal to them when we're really not, because we don't share good vibration with them. We're just holding on to the thing that we don't want to lose.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Fluid right here. And I got my good friend Harvey on the Zoom with me. We're gonna be doing a discussion. Our conversations always just kind of go with the flow. So we're gonna be talking about releasing the ego, about relationships, but we also just don't let it flow. So you want to introduce yourself, kind of tell them a little bit about you?
Yeah, my name is Harvey Mills. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I'm a basketball coach, trainer, and life coach. I'm out here in California right now doing what I love. Out here in this good weather, just appreciating life every day. Yeah, and I'm thankful to be here. So I appreciate you inviting me, and I look forward to the conversation, as our conversations are always fun and insightful.
That's a fact. That's definitely a fact. So we met years ago when I was working my first job. You had just moved to St. Louis, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was what, over 10 years ago?
Yeah, I moved to St. Louis in 2010. I left in 2015, so it had to be within what 10 to 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was probably about 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. And it's so rare that you meet people who, like, you meet people 10 years ago or a long time ago, and then y'all still end up growing in the same direction. And like me and you, we've always had a really good connection, really good conversations. Like, we're deep thinkers. So we really, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this connection just because it's so rare to meet people that you can grow with. Even though we haven't even really talked, it's just, we still just grew in the same direction.
Yeah, it reminds me of the relationship I had with my brother. Me and my brother don't have to talk all the time, but when we do talk, it's like we pick up where we left off last time, right? It's always a great experience because we have good energy and we don't worry about not talking to each other. We're just excited and appreciative for when we do get to talk to each other.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you starting your spiritual journey. Although I feel like you've always been on a spiritual journey, but we talked about how Sadhguru he was a big influence on your journey, and also like your journey of releasing your ego.
Yeah. So I would say that my spiritual journey really got sparked off when I was in St. Louis. When I was diagnosed with cancer, it really kind of opened my eyes past like physicality. And opened myself up to mentality, but I was really in the beginning stages. So I didn't really have a direction. I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. I just knew that some of the things I was being told from individuals or from communities weren't things that I always resonated with. And I wanted to challenge those things. And I felt like I always felt like I had to step outside of other people to really know who I am personally. So that kind of led me in going this direction here, going in that direction there, and kind of like staying in my own path. And as I got more intentional about that path, it guided me to certain mentorship and counsel. And so you mentioned Sadhguru, but he's one of those people that kind of helped me elevate my mentality from surface level to really being in alignment with radical honesty and understanding the nature of things. And that's where I'm kind of able to reset and really separate my ego from my spirit and what energy I would want to give to other people over what I feel personally based off what I've been through in my different experiences. So I think it's really important to make that distinction so that you can really live outside of yourself and be able to appreciate other people's perspectives and ideas.
Mm-hmm. Same. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I do feel like I learn a lot more about myself and even just the world in general when I am taking that time to be with myself and to really, hone in on who I am and what my gifts are. And in that time, I'm always like just unveiling other stuff that I didn't even, realize or, getting those much needed downloads.
Right. Right. Most definitely. I think for me personally, I'm stubborn. So I needed much needed downloads, but I think for the longest time I fought wanting to feel like that I was right about a lot of things. And later on, I learned to realize that it's not really as much about right or wrong. I think right and wrong is more subjective to a person's experience. And it's just about approaching things with the humility of recognizing what you don't know so you can open up opportunity for the things that to learn. Right. And if it's so much more outside of me to learn, then I think it's I need to open up room for that. And I want to be able to go into it with an open mind and an open heart, not with a closed mind based off my experiences. So that's where I've grown to be. And honestly, I'll say this too. I haven't been here forever. Like, it took a while to get here. So I think that's really what makes me thankful for it, right? Is that I struggled to get to this space where I can kind of look outside of myself and my ego and appreciate people for what I don't know about them, not just be thankful for what I do know about them. But now that I'm able to take that approach, it gives me a lot more peace around when people upset me or they don't do things the way I thought it should be done. I recognize almost instantly now that it's like, that's because it wasn't my way to do it. They had to do it their way, right? And I can just have a little bit of humility around that, right? So I think it's guided me to keep better energy around myself and surround myself with the energy of like peace, love, happiness, like high vibrational fruits. And that's what I'm mostly intentional about. I don't really project for what I want physically, but I do want to live in an energy that's high vibrational. And that's what I try to sustain in my life. That's what I project for myself, is how do I stay in good energy as much as possible? And how do I have so much good energy around me that when there's bad energy surrounding me, that I can still find within me that good energy, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We also talk about like the fact that in order for you to love somebody completely, it needs to be that radical honesty. It needs to be that humility, just like you talked about with like allowing somebody to be who they are, allowing somebody to learn the lessons the way that they need to learn the lessons, and not being mad when they don't do it the way that you want them to. Like, that is true love, unconditional love, to be able to say like, yeah, this is what I want for you, but I want you to want that for you.
Yeah. I love that. I often tell people you can only love a person to the extent that you love yourself. And what I've learned in loving myself is that I make so many mistakes that how could I expect somebody else to always do things the way I want it when I don't always do things the way I really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I have to give myself that grace, then I'm way more willing to give somebody else that grace. Right. When I don't give myself that grace, I'm harder on other people. In return, I'm not loving myself as much because I'm not recognizing that that they should have the opportunity to make mistakes too, to understand their life to the best of their capacity too, which means taking risks that may come with downsides as much as it comes with upsides, right? And it allows me to take a step back from my expectations and what I think a person should be doing for them, you know? So that, like I say, I think you can. A wise guy once told me, everything has a preamble, right? Like I love you, right? Always comes with the preamble of to the extent that I know love, right? I'm peaceful to the extent that I know what peace is, or that I can appreciate my peace, right? So it starts from inside out. Life isn't happening to us from the outside in. It's not just smacking us. It's as a result of how we're presenting ourselves, what energy we put out.
And our perceptions.
Yeah.
It really go down to your perception because I always say that we are our words, we are our thoughts, because the things that we think, that's what we bring into existence. When I walk into a space knowing that I'm safe, knowing that, I'm good, that's usually the case. But if I'm running around somewhere scared, I'm bringing that fearful energy in, so really just acknowledging our perceptions and acknowledging our thoughts and acknowledging our power within our thoughts and our words too.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's where the ego starts, right? It starts in seeing life happening to you as a reflection of you. So what about the circumstance that I'm seeing has a lot of me in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't like it. What am I willing to change about myself so that that circumstance can change? That's where ego comes into play. It's looking at your circumstances like, no, it's not wrong that that's happening. It's happening rightfully from what I've done. So what do I need to do to change the happening of that so it can happen in a different way?
Mm.
Looking at yourself as the catalyst for the things that are going on outside of you, instead of looking at you reacting because of something outside of you, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That
Balance.
balance. Yeah, and
Balance.
that was something I really had struggled with because I used to just be like, no, like I'm not the cause of that. I didn't cause that to happen. But my perception of what was happening changed everything about what was actually happening. You know?
Gotta gotta ask yourself, like, why are things continuing to happen if I don't have anything to do with it?
Hmm.
Right? I wouldn't make myself mad. So if something's continuing to happen, it's probably happening because there's something about me that's bringing that energy.
Hmm.
I'm allowing for it. Sometimes it's not that we're doing something, it's just that we're allowing something that we shouldn't, that goes against the energy we want to sustain for ourselves. So even that is a lack of loyalty to self so that you can be loyal outside of you, than being able to say, you know what, sometimes the best way to love somebody is to let them go so that they can, that's what's best for them. And sometimes we hold on to people thinking that we're being loyal to them when we're really not, because we don't share good vibration with them. We're just holding on to the thing that we don't want to lose.
Mm.
I think that's another example of like that ego getting in the way. Your personal feelings make you feel like you want something personally, but what's best for you outside of what you personally want is sometimes what hurts you the most in the moment, right? But long term, it helps the both of you grow. I
Right.
had an example of that is in my last relationship. When we were in the relationship, because of possessions, because of expectations, we weren't able to share and grow the way we're able to share outside of those things. And when we separated ourselves, we were able to come back to the table and really have deeper conversations in a more accepting way about each other. But we had to change that for ourselves. So stepping away from that relationship and working on myself allowed for that to happen. Her working on herself allowed for us to realize the appreciation that was being left behind when we didn't appreciate each other as much in the moments that we made those decisions, even though they were hard, right? We were able to look back and say, man, we needed that.
Yeah.
Thankful for each other past the conditions we had before, which leads us into that unconditional love that isn't surrounded by just my wants. It's about what's best for that person and what's best for me, because we can make a decision that's best for both of us.
True. That reminds me of something that my guru says about yoga. It's that balance between effort and surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Like you gotta, yeah, have that effort to make this work, but at the same time, I have to surrender to the circumstance. If this is just not working, I have to look at it as a holistic approach. Like, what do I need to be doing? What is wrong with this situation to allow it to take the true form that it's supposed to have, instead of holding on to that how I want it to go, that perception of how I have always expected or wanted it to go. Um,
Right.
yeah. And like you said, that possessiveness, being able to just let go and surrender, like, if we're meant to be, it's going to happen. I don't need to be overly possessive. I don't need to be, checking your phone and doing this and that, like it needs to be a common understanding. It needs to be that surrender, that trust.
Right. And without that balance, your effort could impede on your surrender, right? Your more surrendering could impede on your effort. That's what's crazy about the balance. It's always two sides it's always two sides to a coin. It's always a middle ground with it, right? Like if I'm giving the effort, how much of my effort is taken away from me from seeing? Effort is taken away from me seeing that this isn't for me. I'm trying to work something that's not within the wheelhouse of my energy. But that goes into knowing yourself enough so that you can make those decisions and working yourself from the inside out, right? It's like we don't do the inner work to be able to find that balance for ourselves. That's the you in it, is within the balance. Within your understanding of balance is you, your decision you make, right? And I think if we see both sides of those things, we can find the middle ground and then seek us within that middle ground. And that's where we can define what it is for us that we need to work on. I'm better at giving the effort. I'm not as good at surrender. So I can find the balance of that surrender and that effort, right? right? Like it's things like that, just being able to make that decision from a understanding self place. I'm actually working on a book called Balancism, and it's just almost like recognizing the balance in everything. I often tell people too much water can kill you, right? But water's good for you. Right, it's like it's two sides to that coin, right? If I don't balance it out with something else, or if I don't give myself time between taking that water that's good for me can end up harming me. So I have to find a balance in it, you know.
That's good. That's beautiful. I didn't even know you were writing that book. When is it coming out?
That's my problem without setting the dates. I'm setting intentions. You know what? My intention is to make sure I'm holding my energy so that when I feel organically, I'm ready to spew out all of these different circumstances or scenarios that I want people to see within my mind. I'm ready for it, right? I think I prepped myself and primed myself, and I've started my book without even knowing that it's going to be a book. And now I feel like I'm walking into being ready for, being intentional based off where I'm at right now, with just allowing myself to organically release what's inside of me.
Okay.
So no date, but I'm going to get back to you on that. We're going to get it in.
Yeah.
Next goal.
Yes. And when you do drop it, the link is going to be, in the comments. So, just keep checking back. Yes. That's what's up. Let's see how much time we've been talking. I don't even think I have.
Time flies when we talk. So
it does. It does. That's why I'm like, I got to double check and see.
It's funny because we always talk about actually recording it, because how many of these type of conversations do we have all the time, right?
Right.
It's crazy. Every time we talk, we get into this deep conversation about an hour and a half with different now it is time to be intentional about it, because if we want to affect our communities, we got to be vulnerable. That's another thing I had to learn about is being able to be vulnerable, especially as a man in this culture. I think a lot of times we're shunned for our vulnerability. I heard a guy, one of my friends, say it the best. He said, actually, vulnerability is our superpower, but we're not using it, right? And when we realize how powerful our vulnerability is, we realize how much of the change is affected when we are vulnerable, right? You want to see somebody else change? Be open about your circumstance. Be open about how much you felt. Be open about how much you've gone through and bumped your head and didn't give yourself grace, didn't love yourself enough. And then see how much those people are willing to, give you a little bit of grace, That's the power message for me, is that vulnerability. And I think this is a display of that, right? Being able to have the dialogue, express in deep ways, is stimulating to express in those ways. And then you get to find out so much about yourself when you're open with the things that you've gone through. You're able to pour that out. You don't hold it in for yourself like you're ashamed of it. You let it go so that people can use it, right? And be proud of the fact that you made all those mistakes and learn from them. Because without those mistakes, I wouldn't be where I am now. I couldn't have this conversation,
Hey, that's a big aspect, like dropping that shame and being able to be vulnerable. Because a lot of times we look at vulnerability as like, for me, I was scared to be vulnerable, because I didn't want to be taken advantage of, and anytime that I'm operating in any type of fear or lack, I don't like that. And so I'm always trying to reevaluate that. And now coming back into a space where I am able to be vulnerable, like you said, I'm learning so much more about myself, because it first starts with us admitting it to ourselves, releasing that shame, releasing all of the things that we don't want people to know, because in this society, everybody want to present themselves a certain way instead of just being real, And so learning how to be okay with my flaws and embrace my flaws, just like y'all know my tat right here that says perfect in my imperfections. I got that from this beautiful man right here. Okay. And that's exactly how I feel. Like, yes, being perfect in my imperfection, knowing that my flaws and my gifts are what make me me and make me unique. And that is what is really going to bring in the people who are supposed to be gravitating towards me, the people who are meant to learn from me, and the people who I'm meant to learn from too.
Yeah, and the stigma, what I've learned as the stigma for a lot of men is that it's a weakness, right? And it's a weakness because it's like, okay, well, we shouldn't feel, almost, and it's like, no, we need to have the courage to feel so that we can overcome or understand our feelings, right? I think it takes a lot of courage to take yourself through something that may seem painful in a moment, but prepares you to be stronger in the long term, right? So a lot of times we call it courage when we're not vulnerable, and we call it a weakness sometimes when we're not vulnerable, but we're really running away from the thing that we need to release so that we can grow, right? And that was a hard lesson that I had to learn, because I had to actually learn that the crying was the healing, right? The releasing was the healing. I was running away from my healing by not doing those things, by not expressing, right? But I didn't have the courage to go through that either. And that's where I had to redefine manhood for myself in a culture where men were telling me that it wasn't okay to be vulnerable. That was like, that's a feelings thing. It's like, no, like that's the thing that opened up the most doors for me. For example, I was talking with one of the trainers I work closely with the other day. He was talking about how a lot of us Black men, we walk by each other and just look at each other, right? But I can't tell you how many times I've done that, and we just kind of look each other up and down, not knowing what's up. And then I'll go in another experience and speak to that Black man because I'm just feeling it in my energy that day. And then it turned into something I never expected it to be, a kumbaya, a loving moment that I needed. Right. But I missed out on a lot of those moments, what could have been those moments, all because of my being closed in, wondering, in fear, thinking, oh, what if this person don't like me? What if they not? What if there's some beef there? Or what if it's a problem that when I speak, not knowing that, no, I'm the culprit or the captain of the energy I bring to this person. If I bring them love, maybe they'll bring me the love that I need. Right. And that I'm seeking right now. Right. But I a lot of times I was in circumstances where I look you up and down to protect myself. I'm going to just keep on pushing. You feel what I'm saying? And the hard me that built into the lion even prepared in moments for the altercation if I didn't speak. Instead of being vulnerable enough to say, nah, like, I don't even know you, but I want to love you because I just need that energy of love today. Right. And that's where I started to change my perspective. So we talked about it. He was like, man, that's why everywhere I go, I try to find something good to say to anybody that just kind of look at me. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, that's a great way to approach that. You feel me? Just because it's like either I can take this fear into this circumstance and hold back from you, or I can open up and give you energy that you didn't expect and allow you to gravitate to that energy. You might not even have had that energy in your wheelhouse for the day, but because I gave that energy out for myself, now you living in something that you didn't even expect, and you can pass that energy on too. I often say this is a principle of science, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's transferred. How are we transferring our energy? What kind of energy are we transferring? It's not dying, it's not creating itself. It's just reformulating. So what are we giving out? What am I sharing? Right? How am I sharing it with you? Like now, those are the things I look at. Instead of looking at myself as something that culture has that I've accepted that culture put on me, and then I live up to that. No, I have to live up to who I am. So that energy away and be at peace for myself so I can share that peace with others. Right.
Yes. And I feel like that is a part of the that radical self-love that you were talking about too. Like always knowing yourself. I always say too, knowledge of self is the ultimate form of self-love. Because when you know yourself, like when somebody else is bringing bad energy in, you can block it. It's not you. It ain't got nothing to do with you. You know what you bring to the space, and you're able to just fully come in as yourself and not worry about how anybody else is perceiving you, because at the end of the day, you bringing that good energy in, and can't nothing touch you for real.
Right. And another thing to add to that, like we can talk about love, but the best way to affect love is showing that love. And that's why what you say, it rings bells. It's like the best love is loving yourself, because then you can show somebody how to love themselves enough that other people can't affect their peace, right? If we all in our bubble to where we keep the peace that we would give ourselves anyway, right? Then naturally we're going to be peaceful with everybody else. But because we relinquish control of that and don't realize how much control we have within by not loving ourselves and spending that time with ourselves, a lot of times we give that away, right? We give that control away to somebody else instead of staying in our peace and sharing that energy of peace, because you can't move me from that anyway. And I wouldn't give myself nothing else. If you ask me to give myself anything, I'd never give myself nothing negative.
Thanks.
So if I got control over my, why am I being given something negative? It's because I'm accepting something that I should be in control of. And it's because I'm loving myself enough. So I got to spend more time with me so I can stay out of other people's bubble while they're finding their peace. Because somebody else's peace could be my lack of peace, could be something that takes me away from peace.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the importance of them finding them and me finding me, so they can share whatever they're doing in their energy of peace and it not affect my peace.
Thanks. Look, yeah. I think that's it right there. We're gonna close out right there.
Our conversations turn into, and I love it because it's so like I say, stimulating, and it's so growing. I think these are the conversations that people kind of fail to have, that I think we all need to kind of have more often. And that's me putting on to other people, but it's also just me sharing. That's what I've gotten from these type of conversations, just an energy of love, understanding of self, understanding of somebody else, but being able to share in that understanding and continue in our high vibrations. So this is what I live for. These conversations right here.
Same. Me too. You know, I love these deep conversations.
I already
talk about something deep, I don't even want to talk. Just let me be quiet. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming, you know, on my channel today and allowing, well, both of us to bless the space, you know.
I want to give a shout out to you. First off, thank you for inviting me to your space, sharing such great energy with me. You always have great energy, so I know you share it abundantly. I just want to give kudos to you. I've always looked at you as like a spiritual Renaissance woman that do it all, right? But want to just give the best to everybody and want to see everybody just smile, and you do it through you doing that for yourself. And I just love what you're doing. I'm proud of you. And I look forward to more of these, honestly. But I think we need to share some of this information. I think people will resonate with it a lot. And I'd love to learn from the people that respond to you in this, because I know you have followers that are very insightful as well. So just to be a part of the community of energy that you're drawing, I know I can learn from it. So I'm thankful for that. I'm humbled by that. And I'm looking forward to the turnout and feedback from this, because I think even that'll help us grow. That's other people chipping in on their vulnerability and sharing with us the way we share. So looking forward to it.
Same. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Thank you. So yeah, I want to say I'm very proud of you too. And I'm just so grateful for this experience, the platform, and everything that comes from this as well. Go ahead. I'm not wretched, I'm hood class. I'm not wretched, I'm hood class. I'm not wretched, I'm hood class. Got them deep boys calling my phone.